Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Crown Report. My name is Brittany. So much going on this week in royal news. We have the fallout from the recent series Rebel Royals with Princess Martha Louise and Shaman Durek Verrett. Norway is really having its own recollections may vary moment, very similar to Harry and Meghan, just on a little bit of a smaller scale. So it's been really interesting to read some of the reporting on that. We'll go over it. We also have obviously the funeral of the Duchess of Kent. We didn't get any inside coverage really of the event, but there are some notable things to catch up on. We also have Prince Dog's Day in the Netherlands, and we have Princess Ariane making her debut. I have found pretty much all the fashion pieces for that. So it's on Royal Fashion News X. I don't know if I'll have the bandwidth. We're going to keep this show to just an hour today just because of time constraints and so many things going on, because tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, is a state visit from Donald Trump to the United Kingdom, and we will have obviously some exciting fashion there. In addition to the gala appearances, tiaras are afoot, and there will be a tiara watch party tomorrow at this time as well. So 3:00 tomorrow, there will be another live stream, but that'll be on Royal Fashion News, going over all the fashion that we see at the event. I'm hoping we have more of the members of the Trump family attending, because that just means more fashion and more fun. I'm really hoping for new tiaras, please. And so we can discuss a little bit of that, because it should be pretty soon here that Donald Trump and Melania are arriving, if they haven't already. I'm curious if we'll get some images from that, but we do have one of her leaving, and she is already embracing the Britishness by wearing a trench coat, which is Burberry. And then we also have the state visit to Egypt from Spain. The Spaniards arrived earlier today and are holding a reception this evening before the event. So many things to get through. So many. Oh, many. So let's go ahead, though, and get into this whole Martha Louise Durek Verrett situation. And so if you guys are not familiar, let's go ahead and pull up Netflix's Rebel Royals. And we do have news that it seems like Donald Trump and Melania will arrive at 3:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when the live stream starts. So they might arrive about 4. So I'll jump back over there so we can watch it. But if you're not sort of familiar with the Rebel Royals love story, for what it's worth or whatever have you, we do have it here for you to just see a little bit of it, so you know the chaos that Norway is dealing with for sure.
I'm just going to sing a little song in an ancient way.
And that's kind of how
He is a self-styled shaman.
Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Shaman Durek.
She is a princess
in Norway. So they really do focus a lot on the royal side, in addition to obviously Shaman Durek, but also avoiding some of his scandals and stuff.
Our princess is the biggest celebrity.
Princess Martha Louise is set to marry a Hollywood shaman.
Marrying into the royal family, it's just very, very surreal.
So it was an interesting show, so you can see some of what they've seen and who he is. So he's a bit of I would call him a creepy shaman, in my personal opinion. He's just speaking nonsense, by the way. You're supposed to be. I like how somebody said on our watch party earlier today that dog died of boredom listening to him yammer on about nothing. But of course, again, this has been a huge scandal in Norway. And it's really Norway's sort of recollections may vary moment. So we have a couple of stories here to go over in regards to that. In reaction, the palace is not happy, and they consider it sort of you could call it a violation of the agreement that they made. So if you're not aware, Princess Martha Louise, she sort of left the royal fold, or sort of had to leave, because he has some pretty radical beliefs. He's very weird, and she's also very weird. And I mean, in some ways, it's a match made in heaven, you could argue. But the Norwegian royal family was kind of like, well, you can't really marry and be together if you're still working royal, he can't be a working royal. Like, you sort of need to leave all of your royal duties behind. And so they've made this series, and the headline, this is from NRK, which is sort of the major Norwegian outlet, says the royal couple is made an enemy. In this in particular instance, they're talking about the king and queen, but it is questionable whether Direct Verrett wins credibility competition with King Harold. So in this show, they show a decent amount, you could say, of coverage of the royals, but nothing from their wedding and nothing really from them too much. So Nika asks, does the royal family make an appearance in the series? They don't. So this is a movie. They don't make an official appearance, but they pull a picture of the royal couple where they kind of sort of look, let's say, frustrated. And he sort of made claims of racism and that they didn't embrace him and these sorts of things. Very similar a la Harry and Meghan. So he says, because the series is in English, Direct Verrett, if you don't know, is actually American. And he says, the king and queen stared at me and there was complete silence. This is how shaman Direct Verrett describes his first meeting with King Harold and Queen Sonia in the Netflix documentary Rebel Royals. He continues, they hated my clothes. Everything I did was wrong. They always made sure Martha understood that I was completely wrong. I wasn't welcome to the family. It was, what are you doing with this guy? And yeah, he's sort of throwing them under the bus here. But you got to remember, too, they are in their late 80s now. He would be weird to them. Like, the guy has been known to wear dresses. He has been in relationships with other men and thought he would marry a man. And so, yeah, you might be in the situation where, yeah, they might think you're a little weird. And that's not because of the color of your skin or anything like that. It's just because you are weird and you're not what they are expecting. And they go into the documentary about how sort of Norwegians live their lives. And Direct was sort of the antithesis of that. And people didn't appreciate it. He was very he didn't like the Norwegian model of being very modest and very humble. He doesn't particularly like it. He says Verrett later makes accusations against the royal couple, Harold and Sonia. He is particularly upset that they did not come out and defend him when he was criticized in the media. Princess Martha likes to talk her parents down. The king is praised for publicly distancing himself from racism. The film ends with what is meant to be a moment of reconciliation. The royal couple, filmed from a good distance, wave from the royal ship to the wedding guests' boat. And so Harold did come out against the alleged comments of racism because, of course, everything, especially, I hate to say it, but in the American mindset, everything is racism sometimes, or certain mindsets. And so he made this accusation, but at the same time, I just don't think there was, he was just different. And he was very American, very bombastic, very narcissistic, and just didn't seem to understand that that might rub Norwegians the wrong way. And so Harold did come out, though, but he only did after the Harry and Meghan thing. I think he was trying to avoid Norway's Harry and Meghan situation on Oprah. So it was particularly after the Oprah Winfrey interview all the way back in 2021? Yeah, it was 2021. And I mean, bravo to him, but I think it was more to avoid Direct Verrett going to the press than it was to actually address the issues of racism, because I think in some ways, there is some truth to what is said in the show, which is that Harold didn't really see racism because racism doesn't really exist in the same way in Norway. So this is them on the boat. It says, but the main impression after watching Rebel Royals is that the royal couple, at least at the beginning, are given a hostile role. They are representatives of the royal that is rigid and oppressive, the king and queen, where the princess and her lover are alive and free. This is how Netflix can portray them without worrying about the consequences. The royal couple will not object to Verrett's version. They are 88 years old, both of them, they're the same age, part of a royal tradition that does not take family conflicts public. And besides, they have other things to think about, given their age and everything. And of course, Marius Borg as well. Martha and Verrett have made good money telling their story. They probably also have needed to tell their version of what happened when they got together and decide to get married. That is their right. But there is also a side to the matter, which is that this has a price, primarily for others than themselves. The royal couple in their old age are given a film that puts them in a largely unfavorable light for Netflix subscribers around the world. That said, it is by no means said that the shaman will have the greatest credibility for them, even if the royal couple cannot give their version. And as a reminder, this is actually a Google Translate, guys. So some of it won't be as, let's say, the language might not read quite as well in English, but this is pretty good. Royals barely confronts the princess and Verrett with the shaman's more eccentric statement and practices. They are duly reproduced. It may come across as quite off the beaten track in other countries as well. With that in mind, it is also questionable whether Verrett will succeed in portraying the Norwegian couple as intolerant. This feud is also a competition in credibility. Credibility is something King Harold has earned for decades after decades. Verrett entered the Norwegian public a few years ago and is trying to make his version of events the prevailing one. It is questionable whether he will succeed. And when it comes to the reflection of this whole entire situation, guys, I gotta say, Direct Verrett, he doesn't come across well. He comes across very narcissistic, very, very vain, much like Meghan. He's shallow, vain, and vapid. And it comes through in this series. And I think most of the general public, I would argue, even those who are not familiar with the situation, will not particularly enjoy him. I don't think. I think they'll find him as really odd, really strange, eccentric. And, you kind of look at him wearing a dress, running around a field going, yeah, I would question things too. If I was Harold and Sonia, I would not be thrilled either if my daughter brought that home. So just putting that out there. A king and queen cannot be above criticism, but here the criticism is not experienced as part of the broader debate about the monarchy, but as a move to turn the temperature in a commercial film. The family drama in Norway's royal family is profitable for some. The story also seems contrived to appeal to what is probably the most important target group, the American audience. Americans have an intense relationship with the European monarchy and aristocracy, for better or for worse. So I found this to be really, really interesting because it's true. It is designed to sort of, and Meghan Markle did the exact same thing. She wanted to kind of highlight or kind of exploit. That's the word I'm looking for. She wanted to exploit the fact that most Americans remain very, very unfamiliar with what a monarchy is, how it functions, and these sorts of things. And so she exploits that to her and Verrett's own benefit in many ways, because some Americans, I'm sure, will look at it thinking that the royal family, they are a bit, let's say, controlling, or they aren't as progressive as you would think, even though a single mother married into the royal family. So actually, Norway is very, very progressive. However, the reality remains, though, is that he's not particularly likable. And I find that, unfortunately, it just seems to come across very, very poorly. I'm curious what sort of a lay audience member will think about all this. But yeah, they're very much, when it comes to shaman Direct Verrett, and I would say Meghan Markle as well, they are fully willing to exploit the naivete of the American people in order to progress their own ideas and their own victim narratives. And that's something I find particularly sad and particularly very off-putting. So it talks about Downton Abbey here. I don't think that's really necessary. It says both series are simplistic and over-explaining when it comes to portraying the relationship between those who have titles and those who don't in strange old Europe. They also present a similar conflict. The royals and their aristocrats inspire awe. The way they dress and behave is subject to a kind of cult. Yet they are good at heart, but they are also stiff and inhibited, victims of duty. They need to be loosened up a bit by someone with a more, shall we say, free-spirited and American mindset. So I found that particularly interesting as well, because yeah, there'll be certain Americans who go, oh, it's so stiff and cloistered in European royal circles or whatever. And it's like, but it has to be, because one of the things that was sort of interesting in the movie, if you watch it, is that they complain, oh, the press was too intrusive into our lives. They're questioning why this man is marrying into the royal family, as if the Norwegian people don't have a right to question people marrying into the royal family. Because the reality is, if you marry into the royal family, some of your life, even if you're not a working royal, somehow in the periphery, your life will be kind of augmented financially by your connection to the royals. And the royals represent the government. So if you're abusing your connection to the royal family, you are in fact abusing the government and abusing the people that the royals are supposed to represent in whichever country that happens to be. That's really, really, I think, an important thing to consider here. And that's why I really didn't like his sort of mindset of, they're just like, they don't get me. Like, how dare they question us in our relationship? We're private. And that when you're marrying into a royal family, I'm sorry, but you give up your right to privacy. You do. There are certain things, yes, you can keep private. Of course, we were not in the birthing suite with Catherine, and that is perfectly fine. And nobody was asking to be in the birthing suite of Meghan Markle. But if you are in the royal family, you give up certain things in your life. If you can't do that, if that's too hard for you, marry somebody else. That's just how it has to be. That is the only way to do it. Only way to do it. And because you can't complain later, because I'm sure this was laid out to you. I'm sure you were aware when you were surrounded by cameras, oh, this is different. And I feel like it's like preying on a mindset that doesn't understand to be reflected. So Rebel Royal seems designed to fit this mold and live to American expectations of what a royal family is. Even though the Norwegians, again, they are some of the most progressive of the bunch. So it talks about Diana and Sarah, how they found success in the United States. And anyone who immerses themselves in Diana's and Fergie's stories gets the feeling that both of the alternative and the American offer a contrast to where they come from. As royals, they must be representatives of the people, always mindful of the impression they make on the outside. The numerous alternative therapies allow them to focus endlessly on themselves and their own feelings. So this is about, Martha Louise. She speaks to angels. She's psychic. Shaman Direct is a shaman. He's spiritual, kooky, they're kooky together. As royals, they are not supposed to be assertive. In the United States, they meet people who tell them they are wonderful and they should not listen to anyone who limits them. In both cases, the result was very candid books and interviews. Both felt badly treated. And that's actually a great point here, is like they think from the outside, at least at some point, that, and they're told by Americans in some ways, I don't think this is always the case, but we are taught to be assertive. We are taught to share our opinions and those sorts of things. But if you are within a royal family, that can cause problems. And again, if you can't live within that system, and that should be very strongly explained, then you'll have issues. And so both the Norwegian and international press were harsher in the 90s and early 2000s than they are now, which is true. Perhaps there was too little discussion in the back room about how this attention felt for the royals, who were children, teenagers, young men, and women in search of themselves, because it is clear that the experiences have left scars. And that is probably true. Can't deny that. It says, like Prince Harry and Meghan, the press is the big villain for Martha and Brett. Neither couple is particularly keen to distinguish between objective criticism and invasive speculation. That is a great point. There's a difference between objective criticism and invasive speculation. What I would consider overall as objective criticism. It's not baseless speculation or invasive. Everything becomes part of what is perceived as persecution. The urge to tell one story and not let it be told by others is understandable, but Fergie's and Diana's stories say a little about what is a demanding project it actually is. Diana and Fergie also added other royals, ran into problems afterwards, money problems. A royal will only find that the world is interested in buying their story of what it's like on the outside, where few are allowed to enter. The problem is you can't sell that story over and over again. There are limits to how many times you can burn a bridge. So Brett's choice to speak out against the Norwegian couple is startling, given the couple, after all, are tied to Norway and to a Norwegian people who have great respect for King Harold and Sonia. So this is part of the problem, which is actually very astute to point out. This is actually a really good piece, is that if you're insulting the King and Queen of Norway, who are well beloved, have, except for, obviously their children have gone astray, have done their best to represent the Norwegian people. By an extent, you're actually insulting the Norwegian people too by insulting the King and Queen. And Brett probably doesn't see it that way. It says, what Brett sees as a royal couple's lack of encouragement in his feud with the media, others might see as good old understanding. This may not be successful strategy for the princess and shaman in the long run, but I know who it's good for. Netflix. Yes, oh yes, guys. When it comes to Netflix, Harry and Meghan, Shaman Directorate, and Princess Martha Louise, when they do this, at pretty much when they are totally willing to exploit their family, somebody else is willing to do that with them because it makes them money. So we do have that one there, and then we do have a other article here as well from another Norwegian outlet. The Netflix documentary about Martha and Durek has sent shockwaves through both Norway and Europe. Experts believe this could happen with the princess title. So it says the documentary about Martha Louise and Durek Verrett has received intense criticism and coverage after it was released on Netflix at 9 a.m. Tuesday. So the palace has concluded that the couple's participation in Rebel Royals is a violation of the agreement with King Harold from 2022, which in short states that they could not play on their royal connection in a commercial context. So this is much like the Harry and Meghan situation. This is, again, Norway's version of Harry and Meghan. In the documentary, Durek Verrett makes strong accusations. Verrett claims, among other things, that the king did not know what racism was. And it's just like other countries, if you are so self-obsessed and consumed with Americanism, you can't see that other countries don't see the royal racism the same way. They don't have the same relationship with it. Of course, it exists everywhere. That's life. But the particular idiosyncrasies of racism and the conversation about racism in the States and stuff like that is something completely different than how the rest of the world sees the situation. So that's very, very important to understand. And so again, he's playing to an American audience, which will have a particular reaction to it. But he probably didn't. It's not that Harold didn't know what racism was. He probably just didn't think the criticism of Durek Verrett was racism. He's just like, they're criticizing you because you're weird. The palace informs Nettavisen that the king does not want to comment on private conversations in the family. He also points out that the people can remember things slightly differently. So this is really Norway's recollections may vary moment. Says it is uncertain what the consequences of the breach of the agreement will be, but the palace is now announcing an even clearer separation between the royal house and the activities of Princess Martha Louise and Durek Verrett. This will be the topic of conversations we will have in the future, the palace tells VG, which is another outlet. Several royal experts believe this could mean that the princess title will once again be discussed. This is a discussion of removing it. There is talk of the title, but at the same time, I think it is deeply rooted in the king's heart. It will be more of a symbolic punishment than a means of action that has practical significance, says Nettavision's royal expert Tove Tollefson. In 2022, King Harold made it clear that Martha Louise would always be a princess as long as she is the daughter of a king. Tove also points out the same thing, that belonging to the royal family will always be their title or not. But the king doesn't have many more tools than the ones he has already used. So this is actually a quote here. This is how some countries do quotes, which is the line. So this is a quote from her. Maybe she will be encouraged to move to the US and run her business from there. Whether that is a punishment or a blessing, I don't know, but it may be that they will be advised to have a base there to reduce the noise in Norway. Tollefson says there is a clear statement from the royal house that the princess's role in the future will be up for discussions. It seems that they have not only now understood how serious the breaches of agreement are, Martha Louise is spoiled and does not care about the agreement. She continues, I think the king is pissed and sad. He has invited his children's boyfriend and girlfriends. It says girlfriends here, but I've noticed in certain countries, like this particular kind of translation means both boyfriend and girlfriend. Like there must be some word. Anyways, just saying, because I've had, just pointing that out. It says, now he feels misunderstood and that a point is being made in public about something that should have been kept within the family. I think both can be pissed and sad about it. I agree. TV2's royal expert, Ole Jorgen Slud Hansen, I'm so sorry. I'm terrible with names. Also does not believe that Martha Louise will be stripped of her princess title now. Then I would be surprised, and I think that would be a mistake because then the royal house would say that royalty is something you do, not something you are, and that's not the case. Interesting point, but he believes that Martha and Derek have finally realized that the repeated breaches of the agreement cannot continue. It appears that Martha and Derek understand better what they have created, at least when you read their statement today. So I hope that is a step in the right direction. Ooh, what is the statement today? I haven't seen that. But what it took before they realized that this had gone too far was that they were exploited by Netflix in the same way that they have exploited the royal family, he adds. Oh, that's an interesting perspective there, that they were exploited and yet allow them to exploit. Oh, Aaron says and explains Norwegian uses, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, for both boyfriend and girlfriend. The direct translation is dearest. Aw, that's sweet. I like that. I like that a lot. So, thank you so much for that. That's helpful. And like Tove says, she believes that King Harold has few tools left in his toolbox to create further distance from Martha Louise and her husband. The most important thing King Harold must now do is get through to Martha and Derek. It's Martha and Derek who have sold their royalty and then also their responsibility to calm it down. It has been impossible to keep them in their ears. Sometimes you have to realize that you yourself are the problem, says a royal expert. Oh my gosh, is that not so what so many royals do? If they could only realize they are the problem. It's not other people, it's not the press. You are the problem. Harry could certainly use that this week. The couple shared a statement with their press via manager earlier today. Okay, so this is from Martha Louise and Derek Verrett. They said, we recognize the seriousness of the situation and the importance of safeguarding the integrity of the agreement going forward. In retrospect, there are undoubtedly things we wish we had handled differently. Our focus now is to take responsibility and ensure that we move forward in a constructive manner. For this reason, we cannot answer questions from the press. Even doing so could itself be considered a breach of the agreement. Oh, really? Really? Did you just realize this now? You guys had all this time in the world to figure this out. They also emphasize they have a close relationship with the royal family and they do not wish any of them harm. Oh really? Oh, really? Okay, sorry. I have to be a little, I don't know, a little sarcastic here, you could say. How did they not realize this until now? It was kind of like Captain Obvious situation here that, yeah, maybe things might not go so great. And maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't do certain things. Oh my gosh. Biggest shock ever, right, guys? Right? Oh my goodness. So, there is another factor in this situation as well, because this is not Norway's really only problem here, because you have to consider this situation in light of Princess Mette-Marit of Norway and her son Marius Borg, who we've covered before. He has been indicted on 32 criminal charges, very, very serious charges. And they range from very serious to a little late. And like Chris's answer, Chris says, a bit late, send them to Svalbard. And the polar bears. Yeah, like they can be there. It's hard to get off Svalbard. It's like a small community. He can do his like shaman stuff there. Like it'll be totally fine. I I love that idea. But it's like this situation has really become quite serious, and it is impacting the monarchy because Marius, when you take in the two cases, Martha Louise and Derek and Marius, like you have a huge problem in Norway. And the kind of the position I took, you could say, on the video as question, is this the end, really, of Norway's monarchy? Because this is the problem we have. We have the creepy shaman who married the princess who speaks to angels. Then we have the crown prince who married a woman who had a reputation for partying and drug use and these sorts of things. And she seemed to have kind of gotten away from that image. She seemed to become like a very well-respected member of the Norwegian monarchy until her son got arrested last year. Her son got arrested on August 4th, I believe it was. And Martha Louise and Breck's wedding was on August 31st last year. So within the span of the month, Norway got the double hit. It got two massively negative stories hitting at once. And the Marius situation is even more serious in a lot of ways, not only because the criminal charges are very, very serious, but he was raised in the home of the future king. He was around and grew up with the future queen and her brother. And you can't help but wonder what went wrong when. Some of it, I'm sure, maybe is a little bit genetic, but you can't avoid or ignore the nurture aspect as well. Some of it might be nature, but some of it might be nurture too. And it just, for the future of Norway, it just is not looking particularly good. And Mette-Marit is definitely feeling that. So when asked in a recent poll what people think of Mette-Marit, 30% of respondents believe Crown Princess Mette-Marit is suited to be Norway's future queen. Only 30%. By contrast, 65% view Crown Prince Haakon. Gosh, I heard it in the documentary I was listening to again. Haakon as highly suitable to the throne. A striking gap between husband and wife. And honestly, Haakon's numbers here, that's not really all that good either, to be quite honest. Like, suitable for the throne, you should be at 80%. That you're just at 65, I feel like 15 lower than you should be is very concerning. And that your wife's so low. Because see, the correlation here most likely is that she's dragging him down. And it's just sort of it's just a really bad situation for Norway. And I feel so bad because I love the idea of monarchies being around. I think they're a great connection to the history and the culture of various countries. But, this is why you have to be so careful who you marry. This is why you have to be so careful how you raise your kids. Because you can't, hopefully Ingrid Alexandra is perfectly well adjusted and everything's perfectly fine. And she somehow, escaped what happened to her brother. But she also praised him a lot in her 18th birthday speech, which was very sweet at the time. But now you look at the flip side, and basically she complimented him for being loyal. All his friends are criminals. Literally all his friends are criminals, pretty much. And so I think there was the concern is, what was she exposed to? What did she experience with Marius? He invited Hell's Angels into their home. At one point, his mother met them. What else happened? Did he introduce his younger siblings to drugs? Because he was taking drugs. He was on their property. So many questions. Were they at some of these parties they shouldn't have been at that Marius was throwing in his parents' home, where things were stolen from their home? The craziness of this story just doesn't end. And you add in the crazy royal shaman and everything, and you get this recipe for potential disaster. And if you were asked me, let's say, even a couple years ago, which monarchy I thought would be on the brink, I would never have said Norway. And now I think the first domino to fall might be Norway. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully everything is just fine. But if one of the Crown Prince's children has a problem, Ingrid or Sir Magnus, if either one of them have a problem, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. And so, you just got to hope that everything's fine, that things skip a generation or whatever. But it's hard to ignore the dangers here, the reality of things aren't going too well for Norway. So that is a very, very sad day for sure for Norway. In this particular case with this documentary, I need to rewatch it just to give a full review, because I would like to give a full review of it, because there was definitely some interesting things about how they portrayed the royals and everything that I think deserve a deeper discussion. But we will leave that here for now. If you want to do the watch party, feel free to do that. Because I was talking in it, I couldn't listen to the whole thing. So again, that's why I need to rewatch. And I will give you guys hopefully a full assessment sometime this week. I'm hoping this week and this soon. But obviously we do have as well the state visit of Donald. Did they arrive already? Did they arrive? Maybe they did arrive. Hold on. So we do have Marine One. So if you guys are just curious here, because I just pulled this over just because I wanted to keep us up to date. So this is from The Sun. So this is Marine One. And we have obviously press and stuff there. Let's see. I don't see Air Force One. Wait, I don't see Air Force One yet. Okay, so we have soldiers step out. So we have them waiting. Media is cold. I have done that, so I feel them. So yeah, we have the Marine ones waiting. Okay, so we are at this point, I will keep an eye on this, guys, just because this is going to be just a huge thing for this week is a state visit, without a doubt. It's not there for people to get political or anything, but this is just, to me, it's fun. To me, it's fun because I get to see tiaras and great dresses and everything. So we will keep an eye on it, hopefully catch when he arrives, which should be fairly soon. Of course, when it comes to security, I think this is probably just a good time to go over this anyways, is that there's been a massive, massive security apparatus that has gone in place around Windsor Castle. I don't even know if we've ever really seen this before, to be quite honest. I'm just going here and finding some posts that I did yesterday showing the Getty images, just so you guys are aware in case you haven't seen that they're putting up all this fencing around Windsor Castle. And you got to think of this in light of the Charlie Kirk assassination. It's still open right now, but all of this will be closed. I don't think if you are a lay person, I don't think will see Donald Trump at all during the state visit. That's going to be kind of sort of my guess. I don't know that for positive, but that would be my guess. And you can see that it surrounds, it's not only just like the wall, like they're surrounding basically everything in this fencing. And that is because, of course, with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, you have an increased risk that you didn't have even just last week. Like there was always a risk to Donald Trump, but now we just have a increased risk because it's once you have something like that, it magnifies the situation, magnifies him, magnifies what he's doing, because obviously him and Charlie Kirk are similar in political viewpoints. They were very close friends and everything. And if certain people are going to start targeting conservative voices, obviously Donald Trump would be the biggest among them. So it's a huge, huge risk. I wasn't even sure if Trump would go, to be quite honest. I wasn't sure if this state visit would go off just because of that massive security. And yeah, Carol is right. The visit has been shaved down by a day. They were still supposed to, they arrived, always supposed to arrive tonight, be the 17th and 18th. And they were supposed to do a couple of things on the 19th. And that day has been removed. Donald Trump is flying home because he will be, Charlie Kirk's memorial service will be on Sunday. And so I think Donald Trump is probably going to go back for that, you could say. So lots of things going on, very much a huge, huge event. Heather asked, does anyone know if Charlie Kirk's funeral will be televised? I will imagine at the very, very least, it'll be live streamed on Turning Point USA. I imagine Fox News will carry it because a lot of them knew Charlie. So I'd imagine Fox News has a vested interest in carrying it. But beyond that, I am not sure. But yeah, Sir Squirrel Lot says, how amazing to be able to stay in Windsor Castle. I think this is going to be very exciting for Mr. Trump. I think he's going to really, really enjoy it. And I'm going to enjoy, I always love state visits. State visits, guys, are always so much fun. So very looking forward to it, hoping that they have a great time at this. We also have another historic event that occurred today, which is the funeral of the Duchess of Windsor. Now, we have no coverage from inside the cathedral. That was just not something that was allowed, and sort of kind of, you can say kind of for, I would argue, obvious reasons. And that is simply that she was lower down in the line of the family and she was Catholic. So when it comes to the royal family, they were definitely out, you could say, in force for the funeral. We do have a little bit of the video. I'm just going to hopefully here, I'll have a picture while I'm kind of going through the Times of London article, because the Times of London, I think they were the only group that were actually, there was only, I think, one photographer, one or two maybe, and one journalist who was allowed to attend the service. So we have very, very limited coverage, guys, from inside the service. Just want to kind of let you all know that in the very beginning, just because I know some people ask, well, what is there more? There's really not. I'm so sorry. So we do have the royal family here after the funeral. You can see His Majesty William and Catherine here, Duchess of Edinburgh. We have Princess Anne and Sir Timothy Lawrence. And so I will just I'll just mute this because I don't think there's really anything of great interest here. And we do also have Sarah Ferguson also attended, which makes sense because she is a member of the family. It looks like they're carting other members of the family away. And I'm like, it's like one of those things where it's like, it was nice to get a full picture of everyone, obviously, given that they're the highest ranking royals there. Catherine and William and Charles are in front. Now, Camilla was unable to attend this service. And so it was one of the things where, sorry, I'm just adjusting the other service here of the live stream of the Donald Trump arriving. So I don't think he's arrived, but they changed up anyways. Just saying, when it comes to the Camilla not attending, some people criticized her for it, but the state visit from Donald Trump is huge. And if she's feeling a little bit under the weather, I would tell her, just stay home. Just stay home. Don't risk it, because you need to be on not her best behavior by any means, but she needs to feel well for the service. And so according to the Times, let me see what they said that she had there. She had sinusitis. So basically, sinus issues. Like I get those, because of my allergies and everything, that I'll get some pretty serious sinus issues from time to time. And so I completely and totally understand having an issue like that, because that is definitely very challenging. And so to me, some people criticized her for it. I mean, come on, guys. It's very important. I think if you are sick, stay home, get well. Camilla has a packed day tomorrow with Donald Trump. She needs to feel good. I think that's perfectly appropriate. And I doubt she was that close with the Duchess of Kent, to be quite honest. If she could have come, she would have. If she is resting, I say absolutely that's what she should be doing. Now, when it comes to obviously the service, we have Chris ask if Andrew is there. Yeah, he is. And some people may criticize that, but I've always said, guys, and I said this in something else too, because it kind of bugged me, because they're like, well, why is Andrew did they tell Andrew he couldn't go to a church service? And I really hope that's not the case. If somebody wants to go to church, if they want to be a part of this funeral, she was a member of his family. He knew her for, all of his life, basically. Like 100% he should be at the funeral. And I don't think the family should shun him. I don't like the idea of somebody shunning somebody from going to church. I find that to be very tacky, in my opinion. And so Andrew was there. And there's actually kind of a funny bit where Andrew and Fergie, they live together and everything. They're still quite close. And there was kind of a funny moment where like he was leaving and he was walking with Princess Anne. There's Timothy Lawrence. And Andrew's like he's like, Fergie, where are you going? Because, Fergie likes to chat. And so he's like, are you coming? He's kind of waiting. He's looking for her. He's spending a lot of time there looking and going, where is my ex-wife? It was funny because I almost said, where's my wife? But she's not his wife anymore. But at the same time, they sort of still have that moment. Also show you guys here, because we got a different kind of clip. That was from the Royal Family channel. We also have as well from Rebecca English. And there was a little bit, which I thought was really cool, where we saw, King Charles leaving, and obviously William did as he got Catherine's attention, and she gave him a little kiss and then a little curtsy, which I love. And it is interesting to me that obviously Catherine and William or particularly Catherine, was the only one to kind of say goodbye to him in this way. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. And somebody mentioned as well, which is true, that Edward is in Guinea right now. So Prince Edward is not there either. Yeah. So Azima says, do people want Andrew to be banished from the family? I think some do. I don't think some want him to attend any event where royals are also attending. I just don't find that if it's a family occasion, if they want to be there, they should be there. Nobody should ever be barred, even from, quote unquote, bad press or whatever, from going to church. Like that to me is just, I don't like that at all. I personally just don't really find any of that something that I don't know if approve is the right word, but definitely don't approve of it. For what it's worth. I know some people probably don't care, but like to me, I just like if somebody wants to go to church, allow them to go to church. And we also have pictures. I don't really have it prepped here of actually, it looked like Andrew was chatting with Catherine and William a bit. And again, do they act like Andrew doesn't exist? No. Are they close with Andrew by any stretch of the imagination? Of course not. But I do think that it's okay for them to be like, I don't think he's actually talking to them there. He's talking to them in a different picture, but I don't want to kind of get away, especially if we jump back to Trump or anything, to lose because it's kind of, I have to kind of share a different screen. So it's technical things you guys can't see, but we do have Catherine there with William. You can see Andrew right behind them. And there was one picture, at least I saw, it might have been Alamy, where it looked like he was actually talking to them. And so we can see all them together. Very, very sweet moment. It's kind of funny. Catherine's hair looks blonder here again. So, and we do have a couple pictures. These are from whoever the photographer was who was allowed inside, because there was only really one photographer allowed inside. And if you are curious, guys, go ahead and go back to, let's do just a wide family shot in the video. Just so we have something people can look at. Well, I share with you guys what sort of we had from the Times of London. So it says the Queen has been obviously forced by illness to pull out. And Her Royal Highness got a message because she was Catholic. The Duchess of Kent was Catholic, and she got a message read during the Mass, Requiem Mass by Archbishop Miguel Mori Burunda and the Vatican's envoy to Great Britain. And the Pope wrote a note saying, "I was saddened to learn of the death of Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Kent. Entrusting her noble soul to the mercy of our Heavenly Father, I readily associate myself with all those suffering thanksgiving to Almighty God for the Duchess's legacy of Christian goodness, seen in her many years of dedication to official duties, patronage of charities, devoted care for vulnerable people in society. To all who mourn her loss in the sure hope of the resurrection, I willingly impart my apostolistic blessing as a pledge of consolation and peace in the risen Lord." So I thought that was quite nice of him to say. And then we also have, in terms of the official statement regarding Queen Camilla being unable to attend this event, it says that with great regret, Her Majesty the Queen has withdrawn from attendance at this afternoon's Requiem Mass for the Duchess of Kent as she is recovering from acute stenitis. Her thoughts and prayers will be with the Duke of Kent and all the family. So it says, on the eve of the funeral, a private vigil and a series of funeral rites were attended by the Duchess's immediate family. A piper from the Royal Dragoon Guards, of which the Duchess had been deputy colonel-in-chief from the regiment's inception in 1992, led the way as the coffin was taken from her home in Kensington Palace on Monday. Members of the same regiment formed a bearer party to carry the wicker coffin made in Bridgewater, Somerset, with English willow into the cathedral where it rested overnight. Draped with the royal standard, the coffin bore a wreath of British garden flowers, including white roses, symbolizing the white rose of Yorkshire, where the Duchess was born. Duchess of Kent, known as Catherine Kent, died peacefully at her home, surrounded by her family at the age of 92. The king announced a royal mourning period lasting until the day of her funeral. Holding a walking stick, the Duke of Kent accompanied his wife's coffin to the cathedral on the eve of the funeral. Cardinal Vincent Nichols, the Archbishop of Westminster, conducted the Monday evening mass with readings from her son, the Earl of St. Andrews, and daughter Lady Helen Taylor. Her second son, Nicholas Windsor, was also in attendance. Three of her grandchildren, Lady Marina, Charlotte Windsor, Louise Taylor and Albert Windsor read prayers of the faithful. So it was the first Catholic funeral for a member of the royal family in modern British history. So the royals have attended funerals before that are Catholic, but this is sort of the first big one of the family. So I just thought that was just interesting to kind of take part in, and it's just sad, especially for the Duke of Kent is getting up there in years, and he's just it's just sad to see. I think what kind of hits me is kind of the loss of Her Majesty's era. So we have members of the family who were her same age and everything are slowly passing on. And I feel like you miss some of that, number one, you miss sort of the old royal glamour that we used to have for sure. But her death, of course, I think is a very sad and tragic for the royal family. I feel they're, mourning in this period as they kind of adjust to this new reality in many ways. And it's just a bit of a sad day, I think, for the British royals for sure. And especially with His Majesty the King, questions over his health and everything. I'm sure this was a rough day for everyone. So glad to see them out at a somber occasion. You might notice Catherine's dress is the same one she wore to Prince Philip's funeral. It's a Catherine Walker piece. She also has it in red in case you are curious. Now, guys, we will jump back real quick to the live stream here. Donald Trump's arrival hasn't happened yet. But again, we're keeping our eyes here for the arrival of Air Force One. Because again, I'm very excited. I think Link Lauren said this is his Super Bowl. This is like kind of some of the Super Bowls I do, although I would also consider like something you can rely on every year. And not only our state visits, but something like the Nobel Prize ceremony. I love it. And then we also have another fun little royal event today, which we saw some new royals debut for the first time, or at least her first time at this particular event, was Prinsdag's Day in the Netherlands, where His Majesty Willem-Alexander and his family go to Parliament, basically, or both houses of Parliament. They call it like say general or something. I can't quite remember. And we did see Princess Ariane attend for the first time, guys. So this is from Rick Evers. If you're like the Dutch royals, give him a follow on YouTube. And the girls here, so this is Princess Alexia. And then this is Princess Ariane. Ariane just turned 18 earlier this year. And Alexia, this is her third attendance. And I felt like the theme for this event was draped dresses. Although Ariane was the only one technically not in a draped dress, but she has ruching here. She's actually in a Victoria Beckham dress, in case you are curious. And this is sort of her first big occasion. It's fun to watch them be in the carriage. I've actually covered this event myself at actually Princess Alexia's first appearance. And I also have an interesting piece when it comes to fashion here, because Alexia, she has never worn a hat at this event. If I remember correctly, going back through all of her appearances, she always wears like a little thing in her hair like that. She does not wear a hat. So I thought that was kind of somewhat interesting, you could say, for her. And we'll go back over here as the royal family officially arrives at the event. We have Queen Maxima. She is in a repeat. Amalia is an Italian designer. And then there are her sisters, and her sisters follow her in. They arrived before, because everything is in order of precedence. And we had some interesting fashion choices, I got to say, for this event. I really feel like I need to do a whole fashion look because, yes, Alexia objectively did have the best look, but she also wore wedge shoes, like sandal wedge shoes that you would wear in the summertime. Like that, those do not go with that dress. Like, you look great. I'm like, what was with the choice with the wedges? I don't get the choice with the wedges. Like, you could see them actually a little bit here. Hold on. Let's go back a smidge. You can see them. I think you can see them maybe a little bbit in the full body. Like, she's literally wearing sandal wedges. I'm like, what the heck? I was like, You lost me at the wedges. You lost me at the wedges. So I'm curious why that choice. That's really I'm so curious. I'm so curious. Yes, Nika says, yeah, Heather Crawford, Rick Evers. If you guys want to give him a follow, he does the Dutch Royals. He's usually at their major events. He does videos. And so if you're ever curious, like I always love to highlight, especially those outside of the normal Harry and Meghan sphere, because especially in the foreign communities, not everybody gets sort of appreciation. So yeah, Rick Evers, I think he does a great job. And so just wanted to let him. So they do a balcony appearance because everybody's got a balcony, guys. Everybody's got a balcony. And the girls also wore gloves. I feel like that's a tradition from Maxima. And let's go over here. So as Amalia, we didn't really see Amalia's look totally. Hold on. Amalia gets out first because she's technically lower in line than her parents. And spoiler alert, I may just have to do a whole quick fashion video on this because it's only, one of the four main outfits. Like, there's an aspect of me that likes her dress. And then there's also an aspect of me that does not like her dress. I think, oops, didn't mean to do that. I think it's just like there's too much draping. I think there's too much fabric because it kind of looks okay sometimes. And then other times you have to kind of see it in pictures, but it just comes across, even in actually the pictures on the website, it comes across as almost a little too heavy. Yeah. And Amalia has quite the hat. Chris, you're right. Amalia has the hat here. I'm not sure I like the hat either. Like, I think I would have liked it with a different dress. I don't think the hat was with the dress. No. And it looked like she was worried about it flying away, which I would not be a big surprise there. And if you guys want to see the balcony, here we go. So they all come out on the balcony. Everybody needs it. If you're royal, you need a balcony. Like, literally, they decided in Sweden for the 50th King Carl Gustaf's 50th Jubilee. They literally decided to extend the balcony. So they had more like balcony space because it's become a thing. Everybody needs a balcony. It actually reminds me, oh man, shouldn't say it because there's a book idea I want. But yeah. So yeah, Allison Rants and Rave says this fashion feels off. Too summery for early autumn. Yeah, it's weirdly summery and like weirdly fall-y. It's very a strange mix. Strange mix from the ladies, I gotta say. I think they're lovely, but I was a little confused. I definitely felt a little confused by everything. I just feel like it didn't all go together super well. So I did want to, since we have a little bit of time, I'm kind of hoping we haven't seen Donald Trump arrive yet. So I was kind of hoping to kind of stay on the live stream until Donald Trump arrived. Okay, and hold on, we'll take the volume down just so you can see everyone on the balcony. And so, and if in case you're curious, these two people here. So this is one of the king's younger brothers. He had two. Tragically, one passed away in an avalanche accident, actually. And then the woman next to him in the pink is his wife, Laurent. So I think his name is basically like Constantine, but it's kind of a Dutch pronunciation. And so I will have to say, guys, I don't know my Dutch, but like I said in another live stream, very, very excited for the new Apple Pros that come with an automatic like translation feature. Cannot wait. I am going to actually they come out on Friday and I'm going to go to, as soon as possible, I'm going to go to Apple and get them. So it's kind of funny, guys. I have covered this event in person, and when I was there, I do think all the three girls look pretty good overall. When I was there, I guess it was one of their shortest balcony appearances, and so I'm like, oh, it was a fun day. It was a fun day for sure. And yeah, Azima says pre-ordered Royal News Network. No, I didn't pre-order them because I was worried that they wouldn't arrive in time to when I flew out. So that was my worry. Aw, Chris, night from Sweden. Nighty night, Chris. Have a great night. Oh, can't wait to get back to Sweden. I'm really hoping next year to cover King Carl Gustaf's 80th birthday because it'll be his 80th birthday next year. It should be a big old bash in Norway, or sorry, Sweden. So I'm really hoping that kind of comes together. We shall see. So guys, I think that's pretty much sort of the major things that we have for today, sort of in royal news coverage and everything. Tomorrow, in case you missed it, we will be having a tiara watch party. Now, I've kind of debated, do we want to have a pizza party watch party? I feel like it's kind of an odd time of day. Unless you're in Europe, you are welcome to join us with pizza. And it will be at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Because last time when I did it, I had to look up the time because I was really, really thinking that, or really wanting it to be, not really be at a particular time, but I was like trying to figure out what time it would be at, because like the Brits are just not good at sharing information. So, sorry. I just realized that the the sun, the noise from the sun in their live stream was probably coming through. So we don't have things yet. Keep waiting. Hopefully it's soon. If not, we'll go until like 4:15. If he hasn't arrived by then, there's a live stream out there if you want to watch Donald Trump arrive. I'm very excited to see the fashion tomorrow, like super duper excited. I'm really hoping other members of the Trump family will be attending as well, just because that's fun. And last time I was actually a little bit disappointed with Ivanka Trump's look. I just was expecting a little bit more at the state banquet. But obviously things have changed. Ivanka Trump and her husband aren't as involved in the administration this round, which is like totally fine. But I'm just kind of looking forward to it. Aw. Lizzie B gifted 1 Royal News Network membership. Why, thank you so much, Lizzie. And we also have a couple other people who became Royal News Network members. We have Cherry B. Thank you so much, Cherry B, for becoming our YouTube member. And we also have December. So thank you so much, the month of December, for becoming a YouTube member, because December is one of my favorite months, because not only is it Christmas, but it is the Christmas of royal watching time, which is the Nobels. I really feel like the Nobels are one of my favorite things to watch, and one of the things I'm so anxious to cover at some point. So anyways, when it comes to the TR watch party, we'll be starting at 3. Last time when I looked, it looked like about 45 minutes in, we started getting our first pictures. So it's a time where we can discuss a couple things, see how things are looking, and get an idea of when like things are expected. Because the Brits are just sort of stingy on timelines sometimes. I understand for security reasons, especially for this state visit. If you are a royal reporter covering it, I'm sure you have the whole timetable. We just don't. So I am just kind of spitballing, you could say, timeline. But I'm really, really excited for it. It's also a question of what will Catherine wear? Because when it comes to state visits, obviously, the country that's visiting plays a factor in terms of the fashion choices. Catherine last time, of course, chose Dior and Givenchy, 2 major fashion houses in France. With the United States state visit, I can anticipate we will see, a couple options are like Michael Kors, Calvin Klein. We have Ralph Lauren as well. And we haven't seen in particular a gala look from a major American designer as far as I'm aware, because Catherine really does two looks, Jenny Packham and Alexander McQueen. The only outlier, I think, might be Marchesa. I think she did Marchesa one year. I want to say that was the pink lace dress. If any of you guys have a better memory than me, I'm pretty sure the pink lace dress was Marchesa when she did the Spanish state visit. So me looking forward to that. I'm hoping to maybe get something a little different. And when it comes to tiara predictions, Alice Ransom Raves asks, what are yours? I mean, if I was going to be a betting person, like honestly, it's just going to be the normal thing we see all the time. Most likely, it's just going to be, again, the Queen Mary's Lover's Knot. Like the one of the things that really, really, truly does bug me about the Brits is that we don't get a lot of exciting looks, really, in terms of tiaras. They don't share. That's kind of how Queen E set it up. I'm sure that was a something that happened with Queen Mary. Guys, I will always be a fan of tiara sharing, because to me, it lets it be a little bit more exciting, because you don't know what somebody's going to show up in. They could show up in anything. And sometimes they show up like Catherine Amalia wearing the Dutch Mel Rio. Nobody thought that would happen. The Dutch Ruby Mel Rio. We didn't think she was old enough for that particular tiara yet. And she wore it anyways. And that's what I think the fun is. Or Princess Madeline wearing the Edward Ruby tiara from Sweden, which only previously Queen Sylvia has worn, I think. If I remember correctly, no other member of the family has really worn it. And so it was really shocking when it showed up on her head. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm really, really hoping, to me, at the very least, if we could see the Strathmore Rose again and if there's a better photographer there to get pictures, I would be immensely happy with that. I still think it's a shame Catherine wore that tiara for the first time in 100 years and we couldn't really see it. I found that very annoying. And then my other, of course, favorite that I want, because this is just me, I'm really, really hoping for the turquoise, the Persian turquoise tiara. I'm really hoping for the Persian turquoise. I think that would be really a fun surprise to see, because that's always been the question of, did it go back into the vault or not? And so if you guys don't know, that was previously loaned out to Princess Margaret. It hasn't been seen even years before her death. It hadn't been seen probably 10 years before her death. So I think that would be a lovely one to bring out. I think it would look fantastic against Catherine's hair. And turquoise, I feel like the gemstone of turquoise maybe has some connections to the US. I'm like, well, maybe. Be fun to see her in that one. Heather also says, Catherine is supposed to be spending some time with Melania. Has anyone else heard that? Yes. So they're doing that on the grounds of Windsor Castle. And guys, if you look at the live stream right now, I'll pull it up here real quick. Looks like Air Force One is on its approach. So it's almost there. And Catherine and Melania are going to be doing something with the Scouts. And so it's going to be on the grounds of Windsor. So again, highly, highly controlled environment. And this was always even before the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But since we have that now in play as well, it is, of course, heightened, because somebody else can be inspired by what happened to Charlie and want to go after Trump, so that you have that kind of doing it. So yeah. Lynn says, oh, come on. We all want to see her wear anything and everything from Victoria Beckham. Like, I'm not a fan of everything Victoria Beckham. So, and Leslie Warren says, yes, the pink lace dress was Marquesa. Awesome. Yes, her Squirrel a lot says, please let Sophie wear something new too. Yeah, I think Sophie could wear the Strathmore Rose. I want something different. All right, so there it is, Air Force One. It's kind of funny because it's like, I would not mind flying on Air Force One at all, because it's going to be the safest flight you ever have in your whole life is going to be on Air Force One. Everything, you're going to have the best pilots, like everything. So yeah. Oh yeah, this is another one. Alice Ransom Rave says, the Persian turquoise would be great. I'd like the crescent tiara too. I think the crescent would be awesome as well. Just something different. I just want something different, guys. I just want something different. Metabolic says, I love Melania's clothes. What fashion show with Catherine? Yes, it'll be amazing. I think absolutely amazing. So Kate says, please look into captioning your live so deaf people can participate. I know it's possible. So I'll look into it. I think also as well, there's something now new with YouTube where it just starts automatically, at least for my computers, it'll start automatically giving me transcripts, which is crazy, or closed captionings. So Heather says, sorry, guys, I do not like the crescent tiara. It's not really my favorite either, but I think it would be really interesting to see a modern interpretation of it, like how you would wear it. Like the last time we've seen it worn was on the head. I don't even think the Queen Mother wore it. Last time it was worn was by Mary, Duchess of Kent, I think. No, Duchess of Teck. Was it Mary, Duchess? Well, Queen Mary was her daughter, but the Duchess of Teck, I think, was the last person seen wearing it. And that was well over 100 years ago. So somebody says, I want Princess Catherine to wear the honeycomb tiara at least once. She probably will, but I kind of consider that one a big gun. So yeah. Shaz says, you should see if you can get press pass from the president. I did consider that, but yeah, it just seems like that is, especially now, I'm kind of glad I didn't decide to do it this time, because with everything going on, I think even if I got it, it would have been really, really hard and challenging. And the Brits are so controlled with what they do that it's really, I don't even know. Like for me, I'd really want to do the gala appearance, and they only usually have 1 or 2 photographers there for the gala, the banquets. And I find that to be very annoying. Very annoying. So this is a great question. Heather Cranford asks, do you think any of the Duchess of Kent's tiaras would be returned to the vault, or did they pass them down? So this is a tough question. Well, actually, technically, they should belong to the Duke of Kent. So we don't have that issue right now, but that is a great question, because if it's left to the Kent family, what you have the issue with is inheritance taxes. So do they have to sell the Kent tiaras in order to afford the inheritance taxes to keep the pieces? I am always a fan if you are a member of the royal family, and especially if you don't really have the money to pay the inheritance taxes on some of the bigger tiara pieces, is you leave them back to the crown. So my suggestion to the Duke of Kent or the Duchess of Gloucester, or anyone who is, or Duke of Gloucester technically, because they should be his property, is that any tiaras within the family that, if you cannot afford to have the inheritance taxes, if that has not been provided for within the family at the time of your death, leave them to the king. Because if you leave them to the king, your family doesn't have to pay taxes on it, and they don't have to be sold and leave the UK to never be seen again. Because one of the biggest ones, of course, is the Cartier Indian tiara that is owned by the Duchess of Gloucester. It's huge. I'm sure it's very expensive. And can her family afford inheritance taxes on it? That I don't know. I keep saying her, but it's technically probably the Duke of Gloucester who actually owns it. So we do have Air Force One has officially landed. It's going to take it a second. I do have to pull away just for, of course, I'm very, very excited to see what this will look like. Gretchen the First says, I bet a lot of the press this time will be Road Pool and Washington Pool. Yes, White House Pool. It would be, again, even with the addition of everything, going on, I think a lot of it will reside with, I think they'll keep the press pool very, very tight. Alice Ransom Ray says, does anyone else think that Air Force One is such an ugly plane? Sorry to all Americans, but it's weirdly proportioned. So it is definitely it's a 737. And Donald Trump is not a fan of the design of this, which comes from the Jackie O era. So he is definitely interested in changing it up. So I'm for that. I'm for that. So Gretchen the First says, I feel sorry for Melania. After 9 o'clock local time, and sweats probably aren't an option. Probably not. Well, when there's a live stream of you arriving someplace, best to not show up in your sweats, I gotta say. Best to not show up in your sweats. So. Sir Squirrelot says the Kent jewelry belongs to the Duke, but a lot of the Kent big guns were actually sold in the 70s. Oh, that is sad. That is really sad. Yeah, sometimes that is why you leave the stuff to whoever the monarch is. That's just the smartest way to keep the things. Because I consider tiaras, especially ones that have old history and stuff within the family, I consider them to be cultural pieces that should be kept within the country of their origin, if possible. So we do have the door being opened. That is a good sign. And then another door inside closed. So just waiting to see what happens there. So I just, again, pull away for security reasons. Oh, and they have the it was kind of funny because I was like watching the live stream and something comes into the face and I thought it was like a transition piece. It was just the stairs going to the door on the plane. So looking forward to it. It'll be interesting to see if Donald Trump speaks to the press. I imagine he probably won't, but at the same time, he definitely could. It's kind of interesting that he flies in the day before, because technically all of us, when we go to the UK or some other place or to any place in Europe, we do overnight flights. So he is there to spend the night there before leaving. So Sir Squirrelot says, if the family leaves it to the monarch, can the family have rights to wear it? Yes. It depends on obviously how things are structured, but when it comes to the future of the Kent family, honestly, in a couple decades, like even a decade's time, like they won't be prominent really members of they're not even really prominent members now because of how far down the line of succession they've been bumped. So really, it just makes sense to leave them to the family. So we do have the stairs, guys. The stairs are there. Man, it would be so nice to have a giant private plane to take you places. Yeah. Oh yeah. Priyanki says, anytime a door opened now in such a situation, I'm reminded of the Macron incident. Yeah, where Brigitte Macron slapped Emmanuel Macron. That is still wild that she just slaps him. He's just like this, or he's like, he kind of reacts and then he realizes his door is open. He's like, oh yeah. Sorry, you guys. Barbara, you are right. Air Force One is a Boeing 747, not a 737. My apologies. I misspoke. I knew what I was talking about, but I used the wrong number. So my humblest apologies here. Securing everything. I'm sure we got Secret Service agents all over the place. Again, so, and when it comes to Donald Trump being in the UK, so he definitely obviously has a Secret Service around there guarding him, but it will be augmented by the British diplomatic service, whatever that happens to be. So they will assist in guarding him. And that is because he's an internationally protected person, just like any of the other royals. Again, this is a status Prince Harry wanted, and this is why he shouldn't be getting in. Lou says, I really love that shirt you're wearing, Britt. Why, thank you. So yeah, it's funny. I was telling people on the live stream earlier. So I was actually going to give this shirt away, donate it or whatever. But I found myself I tend to wear sweats anymore. I just do. Oh, we do have, guys, oh, no, these are soldiers. I was thinking the press was moving more. There's a couple of members of the press right here who are allowed to be here, but that's it. We might have some people who got out of the back of the plane, like from Donald Trump's team or whatever. And anyways, just to say, it's just kind of funny because I was going to give this shirt away. And then I kind of realized, well, I like wearing button-up shirts with my sweatpants. So I look a little fashionable, even if I'm just wearing leggings. So that's what we did. So I'm like, I'll keep this. It's long in the back, so it covers my tush. It's from Calvin Klein. All right. That almost looks like Catherine's person in the green right there. It kind of looks like one of Catherine's assistants, but I don't think she would be there. Because as far as I'm aware, Catherine and William are not there. Ella says, will Catherine be seated next to Trump? Probably. And that is just life as a royal. And if she can't deal with it necessarily, then that should be something, she's got to figure it out. Because royals aren't really, like, you can have an opinion, but your whole, you should not ever make your opinion known. Because you are there to represent your people. You are not there to represent yourself or to have yourself be the center of attention. That's kind of like a really, really big distinction between royals and politicians. Like Donald Trump can have an opinion on whoever the heck he wants. Like him or hate, like he can have an opinion and he can share it because he's a political figure and he's engaging in politics. Catherine doesn't engage in politics. So yeah, Gretchen says usually only the president and first lady come down the front stairs. Yeah, so they'll have a back entrance in the plane, and so sometimes if they have like assistants or they have members of their press team or whatever, they'll exit the back of the plane and get out in front and get pictures of them coming down, and then they come out the front. Yeah, Heather says royals are neutral. Exactly, they are politically neutral, and Catherine can hate Trump. That's her prerogative. She wants to. He should never, ever know that, though. And in fact, it doesn't really even help her to have an opinion about him. And like, if she can avoid it. And the reason is that if you have like a really negative opinion, let's say like kind of Meghan Markle does, that will be infused into your conversation. So it almost benefits you to not like engage with it too much, because then that might impact and negatively impact a conversation on someone you're supposed to be engaging with diplomatically. Yeah, Lynn says, the good thing is even his detractors say Trump has a great sense of humor and is a good conversationalist. He is. Looks like there they are. Oh, she's still in. I was really hoping for something else other than the trench coat. So they have arrived. So we will pull back just for, obviously, again, copyright reasons and stuff like that. And then there they go down the plane. It'll be, again, interesting to see if he ends up chatting with anyone. Looks like they're being greeted by British soldiers. Who is that he's chatting to? Might be the British ambassador to the US, I would say, or something. I'm not sure who they're chatting to there. So they're greeting a couple people there on the tarmac. I think, obviously members of the British government, most likely. Carol says the trench is Burberry. It is ugly. It's a little bit too long. I have to say, I found it to kind of smother her. Yeah. So, the RAF regiment standing guard. Yes. And again, it's all about making sure that, you honor your guests, whoever they happen to be. Again, Keir Starmer and Donald Trump, I don't think agree on much of any sort of policy, but the United States also as well is more powerful. So you kind of have to bend the knee to those who are more powerful than you. That's just kind of how it goes. I hate to say it. I don't hate to say it, but I just like acknowledging reality that that's sometimes what you have to do. Is you have to bend to the people who are more powerful than you. And Donald Trump is that. So they have officially arrived. I think Melania, is actually, looks like she's kind of happy to be, which is, oh, she was smiling there for a second, but not anymore. So holding hands, big agreement. So doesn't look like he's talking to the press. So I was just curious if he would be, but no, they are headed straight towards Marine One. So this is kind of the funny thing because they got there like this late. So they're sleeping overnight and stuff. What did they do on the plane? That's what I want to know. Because like sometimes like the thing on the plane is you can sleep on the plane. I mean, I'm sure Donald Trump was working, but I don't know about obviously what Melania was most likely doing. So she goes ahead and goes on the plane helicopter, Marine One. And Donald Trump is following her. There's always two Marine ones and they'll kind of do a maneuver so you can't tell which one's which. So Donald Trump on the helicopter. He's greeting the pilots there and going to sit down. And there we go. That is it. The U.S. state visit to the UK has officially begun. And like I said, guys, the back door, that's where the staff is going. The staff goes in the back door. The principals go in the front door. That's sort of how it works. So Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen, is in the United Kingdom, ready for all his engagements tomorrow. So there will be a greeting at Windsor Castle. Sounds like Trump and Melania will be picked up by William and Catherine. They'll be greeted. They will have the lunch. They usually have a visit showing off some of the pieces that have U.S. origins within the Royal Collection Trust. And then the evening, we'll have the state banquet. And in addition to that, guys, so much going on. There will be a live stream tomorrow starting at 3:00. That will be covering Catherine's, the state banquet. So tiaras are afoot, and I cannot wait. Gosh, guys, I'm so wanting new tiaras. Please do tiaras. Like Sophie last time too. It was boring. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in for this latest edition of the Crown Report and for sticking around a little bit as we waited for Donald Trump to arrive. I love real events like this as much as we can cover them. So there is Marine One. Donald Trump has officially arrived, and we shall have all the festivities tomorrow. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I don't know what I'll do today in terms of videos or anything, if I'll do it, because we've had a long day already. But I know a lot of people requested Harry and Meghan and the Disney thing, so I may do that tonight. And I do want to do more on Martha Louise and Direct Verrett. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Either way, guys, so much has occurred. Thank you so much for tuning in, spending some time with Royal News Network. And I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Bye.